Okay, so here we are on step 3, learning to diagram comparatively simple arguments. We're on example number 5. And once again, I've included the entire argument in a text box up there just for my convenience. And the first thing I'm going to do is copy our work from step 2 and devote a text box to the conclusion. That's the conclusion that we found in step 2. I'm going to take the quotation marks off it, give it a number, make it a little bigger. You should buy a house. That's what this arguer wants us to accept at the end of the argument, if the argument is successful. So let's go ahead and put it up there. And then let's start looking for premises. I'm in fact going to double click the text box button and put a few down here because I'm sure we have more than just one. Okay. And let's just start reading the argument, looking for claims, individual assertions that could be affirmed or denied that the author is using in order to convince me of the conclusion. Remember, the diagram part of these steps is really about understanding what the author is trying to do. So you're really focused on being fair and accurate. We are not talking about whether this argument is successful, whether it ought to persuade us. We're just trying to figure out what the author is doing. Okay, so let's start reading. The first sentence is really a restatement of the conclusion, so I don't need that. That's not a premise. The second sentence has a claim about real estate. Okay, so that's an assertion that the author is making, trying to convince me of the conclusion. I don't know how it's going to fit in, but I know that it is a claim that's being used as evidence. There's another one. You will definitely get your money back. And I immediately see a relationship between the two premises that I just isolated. 2 is a reason to believe 3. The author is using the claim that real estate always appreciates to convince me of the claim that you will definitely get your money back. So I'm going to put 3 over here. I'm going to put 2 over here, and I'm going to use an arrow to indicate that 2 gives evidence for 3. I think I'm going to come up with some more premises. Now, I'm not exactly sure how 3 is going to get to 1. I think I'm going to keep looking for some more premises right now, but I'm pretty confident that that subargument certainly works. Okay, let's keep going. 4. Your mom would be so impressed by how grown up you are. That's one claim. Okay. And another claim. You would finally earn her respect. Again, I'm seeing a relationship of evidence here. Why should the listener believe that they would earn their mother's respect? Because the mom would be so impressed by how grown up you are. So there's another sub-argument here. I'm going to move 5 over here. And 4, let me make 4 a little skinnier, just to fit it in, because I think we're going to need some space over here. 4 gives evidence for 5. Your mom would be impressed, therefore that's reason to believe that you would finally earn her respect. That's worth something, isn't it? That's not really another claim, that's not an individual claim, that's a restatement of the ideas and premises 4 and 5. And then the next 2 sentences are about interest rates. And they're about how low they are. So the claim really is interest rates are really low. We're combining 2 sentences there. Have you seen interest rates these days? They're practically giving money away. The central idea there is that interest rates are really low. No evidence for that, just really stated, so there's not a sub-argument. So I've got 2 sub-arguments here that I feel good about. It seems to me that 3, 5, and 6 are all intended to give evidence for 1. They're all reasons that you should buy a house. And they're independent from each other. Let's say 6 is falsified, right? Someone comes along and says, you know what? Actually, interest rates just jumped up really high. They were low last week, but now they're super high. Even if 6 is false, 5 and 3 can still function as evidence. You would still earn your mother's respect. You would still get your money back. Okay. Same thing. If 3 turns out to be false, 5 and 6 can still function. It's not a question of whether 5 and 6 are true. It's a question of whether they can still do the job that the author intends them to do. If the answer is yes, then they are independent of each other. So here's the diagram I've ended up with. 3 independent premises, 3 different reasons that are meant to convince you to buy a house, 2 subarguments. So 2 of the 3 premises here are backed up by other claims. I think that includes all the premises that the author intends, and I think that's a fair representation of how the author is using these claims to try to convince me of the conclusion. So that's a good step 3 in example 5.